Jnānatimirandasya Jnānanjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jata Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, everybody, good morning. So thank you so much for coming today. We are continuing from where we left off yesterday, or the day before yesterday. And we're starting to get into really what I feel is a very fascinating area now. And that is, I want to focus on this word evolution. Think of this word evolution. That there's this vast body of Vedic literature. It speaks on so many different levels. This will be everything that we have about 7 classes left, I think. And everything that we're going to be getting into now is, if we look at this big body of literature, how do we understand it? How do we make sense of it? It can appear confusing. It can appear that it's saying different things it's saying, this person, this goddess, she's the supreme. No, this God, he's the supreme. No, this one, that one. How to make sense of it. Sometimes it's being saying God is a person. Sometimes it seems to be saying God is an impersonal energy. Sometimes it seems to be indicating that the best thing that you can do is be very dutiful in life, and you'll receive all kind of special blessings in life. And sometimes it seems to be saying, no, material blessings are useless. Let them all go and go deep within yourself and find peace. Sometimes it's going to be saying divine love is really what it's all about. You need to keep evolving till you get there. So you get many different messages in these texts, and people look at them and they have trouble interpreting them or understanding where it all goes. Sometimes they have different conclusions about where it all leads. Sometimes they say it doesn't matter which path you choose, just choose any path. It's all going to lead to the same place. Is there a coherent way to make sense of this big body of literature that all comes through one great sage whose name was Vyasadeva, Veda Vyasa, Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa. His real name is Krishna Dvaipayana, but Vyasa means like the editor, the person that broke it all down and organized all these thoughts. He meditated, connected with this body of knowledge called the Veda, which is just floating through the atmosphere available. And then for us who don't have that ability, he wrote it down and edited it into these different categories. And he just had a different way of communicating. Maybe we could say it's indicative of Eastern thinking as compared to Western thinking. Whereas in Western thinking, particularly when it comes to like the religious thought or the spiritual thought, it's kind of like, I don't mean to say this in a critical way, but it's kind of like a more simplistic presentation. Here's the line, everybody. I'm going to draw a line. Either you believe in this God and you'll be saved from all of your sin, or you don't and you will suffer eternally for it. It's like, now cross the line. Whereas Vyasa's thing is, no. It's all about evolution. It's all about transforming. And if you're not ready for the full message, then I'll come to you where you're at, and I'll speak to you on the level that you're at. So let's say you just want material stuff, and you're not so interested in renouncing the world. He's going to come to you with the 4 Vedas, and that's what we spoke about yesterday. And he's going to teach you how to be a materialistic person in a way where you're going to start to evolve, in a way where you're going to develop higher qualities, in a way where you're going to develop some appreciation and some gratitude within your heart. And this is going to prepare you. This is going to be a good step forward, right? And we spoke about that in our last class. We spoke about these texts, the 4 Vedas. I want to, there's going to be 3 different types of evolution that I hope to cover in these coming days before I go. And one of them is this progression from karma to jnana to bhakti. And I'm going to explain those terms in a moment. Another is you could say that's a progression in one's motive, one's intention, what drives one. But within that progression, there'll be a progression of how one sees himself, how one sees the world, how one sees the divine. Each one of those is going to evolve through those stages from karma to jnana to bhakti. That'll be the first one that we're covering, and like the major evolution that we need to talk about. And then I want to talk about another type of evolution, which is from different ways of seeing the divine, from Brahman to Paramatma to Bhagavan. It means from seeing God as an impersonal energy to seeing God within the heart of every living being to seeing God as a person. It's a very nuanced presentation that Vyasa gives in these texts. And the third presentation, if we have time to, the third evolution that I would like to cover is, in Sanskrit it says Kanishta Madhyam Uttama, but really just means the depth of one's bhakti, the depth of one's realization of the divine, from a beginner to medium and to like the highest level. And I think that a lot of people's resistance towards, let's say, religion, has to do with people they speak a lot about religion, but they haven't evolved up these levels. And so if you're on that beginner level, there's a lot of problems with that. There's a lot of problems with that. Even if you have like a certain faith, a certain religious faith that's meant to help you evolve, if you think, I already got it all, I don't need to evolve, then your religion can easily become something harmful, something harmful to yourself and something harmful to other people. So I don't want to get too deep into that right now. Right now, we need to focus on this evolution, karma, jnana, bhakti. And this is an evolution that we see in Vyasa's literature, right? And it going from, and I have that mapped out here, from the 4 Vedas, which is called the Karma Kanda. Now, does anyone know what the word Kanda means? Okay, that's no problem. Kanda is, it kind of means like the division or the section. So when we speak of Vyasa's vast Vedic literature, it's divided up into kandas, into different sections. So there's the karma section, the jnana section, the bhakti section. And what literatures fall within those sections, I have it mapped out here. The karma kanda section is the 4 Vedas especially. And what do we mean by karma here? I'll talk about this evolution from karma to jnana to bhakti briefly right now. And if everyone's super attentive right now, what you get here is going to make all the difference in the rest of these talks and potentially in the rest of your life. Here, what does the word karma mean? Most fundamentally, it means action. Or we can be a little bit more specific and say work, the work that you do in this world. Or we can be still a little bit more specific and say it's like the dharma, the work that you take on specifically according to your own nature. We can call that all karma. But it means actions that are done knowing that there are reactions that come from action, right? Actions within the realm of the law of karma. So the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas is a section that is going to teach you how to reap good karma. Because this is the worldview of the person that sees through the karmic lens. And again, we're using the word karma to mean one's worldview. When you wake up and you look at the world and you think, how can I enjoy this world today? Right? How can I enjoy this world today? Then you have the karmic mentality. What can I do to reap good results in this world? And we read about the 4 Vedas and how they teach that. They teach the rituals. They teach the behavior, how to be dutiful in this world. Carry out your duties in this world. Be kind to others. Be generous. Part of your duty is to give in charity. Part of your duty is to be respectful to others. Part of your duty is to recognize that all that you receive in this world, all the blessings, the sun, the rain, the river, the mountain, all of this, there are people behind it. There are gods and goddesses behind it. They are very diligently carrying out their duties to provide for you what you need. It would be very wrong for you not to recognize this, right? Grow up, mature a little bit. I gave the example, like if you ask a little child, where do you get your food from? And the child might say, I get it myself. How do you get it yourself? I walk to the refrigerator, I open it up, and I take it out. Right? But yeah, fine. But you have no understanding of what's really going on here. On only the most remedial level do you get the food yourself. There was a higher power, a benevolent higher power that cared about you, that provided that food, put it in the refrigerator for you, like the parents. So similarly, the Vedas are teaching us to recognize that there are higher powers, benevolent higher powers. And if you show your gratitude to them through the right rituals, then you will be further blessed by them and you can enjoy life on a higher level. And the highest goal that's taught in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas is that you can elevate to higher planets in the universe and enjoy life on a much higher level than we're doing here. Everything's really beautiful, and you live for a long time, and all of the problems that we have in this world are you're free, just kind of free for some time, but then eventually that runs out and you come back down. And that's the problem with karma, right? It's like a bank account. You accumulate it and then you burn it off. And there's also bad karma too. But the Vedas are teaching you how to get past the bad. V-karma is where you're not even studying these texts. You're just living in the world, just trying to get whatever you can. The Karma Kanda section of the Vedas is like, okay, if you're interested in the things of this world, I'm not going to force you right now to accept the higher idea. I'm going to give you how to pursue what you're interested in, the material things of this world, in such a way where you're going to start to elevate. You're going to start to develop gratitude. You're going to start to be kinder. Your heart's going to get a little softer this way. Your mind's going to get a little clearer this way. And then maybe you'll be ready for the next step. Does that make sense? Karma Kanda. The karmi, the person that has this mentality, they look at the world and they think, let me find enjoyment here. In one sense, it's like my playground. Now, the next stage in evolution is called Jnāna. What does Jnāna mean? Knowledge, right? They can look at this whole karmic mentality and see it with knowledge, see it more clearly. Why should I work so hard to accrue good karma when it all runs out eventually anyway? And then I suffer, I feel pain. Look at all the pain in this world. This world isn't meant for me to enjoy. This world isn't a playground. This world is more like a prison. There's so much suffering in this world, right? Because that's the way karma works, is you do activities in this world, you reap the benefits, and then the benefits run out and you suffer. And how many lifetimes have I been suffering? Now I have the knowledge because I've been reading the Jnāna Kanda books, right? From the Jnāna section, from the knowledge section, like the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra. And these texts have informed me that I'm not this body, that's knowledge. I'm not this mind, that's knowledge. that everything made of material energy is temporary and eventually falls apart and causes pain. That's knowledge. That I am not made of matter, that I am made of spirit, that I'm beyond all this, that I can transcend it, that I'm eternal. I am spirit, aham brahmasmi. Focus on that. Go within. Let go of all your material desires and transcend this world. Very, very different idea, is it not? Very different idea. It's actually the opposite. It's almost like the opposite. Same teacher, right? Vyasadeva, drawing from the same body of knowledge, the Veda, but he's taken all this knowledge down. He's divided into different sections. If you want material things, I have books for you. It's going to help you evolve. If you want to let go of the material things and become free of suffering, I have other books for you. You can read these. It's going to make you look at everything in a different way. It'll be a step up. Sometimes the idea is that sometimes we have to enjoy and then suffer before we're ready to let go. When you want to start to let go, then you read these Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra. Now you've evolved to that next level. Make sense? And today we're going to go deeper into that. But what's beyond that? Is the goal of life to just let go of everything and find peace? Right? Or is there something more? Perhaps that's not even the topmost goal. Perhaps that's even just like a neutral state. And there's something beyond that. And that's the realm of divine love. That actually our very nature, if we analyze it thoroughly and deeply, we'll see that not only am I eternal and full of knowledge and full of bliss, but that bliss is something far more than peace. Right? Bliss is more than peace. Bliss is love. That's what we're designed to do. I used this example a long time ago. Maybe many of you weren't here. But how many of you, at some point in your life, hopefully only when you're young, hopefully we let this go as we grow up, but like you're swimming and you're swimming with other kids, sometimes it's like big brothers tend to do this to their siblings. They take you by the neck and they stick your head under the water and they hold your head under the water. If this has happened to you, please raise your hand. Okay. So when your head's under the water, you've been there, yeah? She did it to you. Okay. Then you know that's bad karma, right? Okay. All right. So, okay. So when your head's under the water, there's nothing. What's in your mind? Yeah, just anxiety, right? Pure anxiety, nothing but, you're not thinking about anything but anxiety, right? When will it end? When will it end? I need this to end. I can't take it anymore. I need relief now. I need peace. This is the way that the Jnāni is thinking, right? The Karmi is thinking, I want to have fun. I want to enjoy. The Jnāni is thinking, I'm suffering in this world and I need peace. I need relief. That's their goal, right? What's the Sanskrit word for that? Relief, release, freedom, moksha, right? Moksha. I want freedom from the sufferings of this world and find an eternal peace. So that's their aim, and the Upanishads are going to speak to that. But if someone has your head under the water and they're holding it down there, and your mind is full of anxiety, just pure anxiety, and then they let you up, and then you come up for breath. Right? True, right? When you feel that, when you take that breath, it's freedom, isn't it? It's like all the anxiety in an instant is gone. And when you feel the release of all of that anxiety, it's like, oh, I'm free. It feels like ecstasy. It feels like you gain such release. It feels like this is it. But we all know that that's just a neutral state, actually. Like we're breathing right now and it's no big deal. It only seems like ecstasy in comparison to the suffering. But actually it's just neutral. Make sense? So when one achieves the level of bhakti, they see moksha, that freedom, as just a neutral state, right? Freedom from the sufferings of this world is a neutral state. Divine love is a positive, blissful state. Right? It's not just negating the suffering, but it's achieving the supreme bliss that's found through love. That's called bhakti. So the karmi sees this world as their playground, in a sense. The jnani sees it as the prison that's meant to be escaped. And one is like a thesis and one's an antithesis. The thesis is this world is meant for our enjoyment. The antithesis, and let's enjoy. Let's do it right, by doing the right Vedic rituals. The antithesis of that is, no, this world is a prison. Let's let go of all the Vedic rituals and let's go within, right? We're not chanting mantras and putting the ghee into the fire and doing all these different kind of rituals to achieve some kind of blessings. I'm going within and I'm going to realize all my blessings are in my nature itself, right? I have it all, everything. I don't need anything external blessing. I just need to go inside and find my own nature, right? And I'll find peace. But then if one is the thesis and the other is the antithesis, bhakti is the synthesis. It's taking from both. It has the good, it has what makes sense from the both, and then it transcends them both, right? I can be dutiful in this world, but not to get material things. And I can let go of things in this world. As a matter of fact, I do that automatically when I have love. When I have divine love, when divine love is what my consciousness is permeated by, I have no interest in the material things of this world. I let go of them without even trying, without even intentionally performing austerities or sitting here and analyzing all of my material desires, which is what happens in the Upanishads. Walking away. I don't even need to walk away from the world, walk away from my family, walk away from society. The love that I feel is so strong. And it's not materialistic love. This is divine love. This is a spiritual state of consciousness. We'll get into all of that. But when you're in that deepest state of spiritual consciousness called prema or divine love, you renounce the things of this world automatically. Even if you don't do it externally, internally, you have no material attachments because the attachment of your love is so strong that you've let go of everything else. Okay, so that becomes the synthesis. The thesis is, let's enjoy the world. The antithesis is, let's reject the world. And the synthesis is the entire world is all just the energy of God, who is the object of my divine love. I just see it all as an offering to God. And that's called bhakti. Any questions about that? I know I threw out a lot right there. Now I'm going to work through it all. But if anybody has an initial question. Everybody's okay? Anybody confused? What's going on? What is he talking about? Okay. So then we spoke about the Vedas in detail yesterday. We said this is the first division of the Veda that Vyas creates for us. What he's chanting right now, I'm not sure what he's chanting. It's probably not Vedic mantras. It's probably like something that developed after. But you may hear people chanting Vedic mantras. Sahana vavatu, sahana punatu, sahavirya. They do this with this precision, right? They take the idea is if we can chant these mantras just right, we'll get just the right material combination and we'll get what we're looking for. These books are giving us all the four Vedas are meant for the priests, meant for the people that chant the mantras, meant for the people that do the rituals, that they can, if you just bought a new home, they're going to come chant the right mantras so that you'll get auspiciousness in your home and you can enjoy material life. The Jnanis are not so interested in that. Now we're talking about the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra, which in a sense is a summary of the Upanishads. And these books are not the property of the priests. These books are meant for the renunciates, for the people that walk away from the world, for the people that go deep within. You may have an idea of who these people might be. Many of you may know Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi. That's a Jnani, right? Someone like that. What is he wearing? He's just got like a loincloth on. What's he doing? He just sits there. Is he doing rituals? No. He just keeps telling you like, you are not your mind. You are not your mind. You are not your mind. Like that. Okay, so let's read about the Upanishads. Ready? Yes? I need to hear from you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Upanishads literally means sitting near. The designation refers, if you're wondering, this is something that I've been writing, something I hope to publish before long. The designation, sitting near, refers to the philosophical dialogues between spiritual teachers and their disciples who would traditionally sit at their feet, to attentively receive instruction. There are 108 Upanishads, out of which 10 or so are considered to be most important or principal. Strictly speaking, now this is important, it's a technical thing, but the Upanishads are a subcategory of the four Vedas. Actually, the Upanishads are part of the Vedas, right? They come at the end of the Vedas. They're called Vedanta, as each of the Vedas' 4 books end, anta, with a collection of Upanishads. But their message and feeling is altogether different, and therefore they are regarded as a unique category of sacred text in contrast to the rest of the Vedas. Is that clear? Vyasa wrote 4 Vedas, and at the end of each one of these 4 Vedas comes a collection of books called Upanishads. So technically, the Upanishads are part of the 4 Vedas, but because they speak from a completely different angle, people will commonly say, well, there's the Vedas and then there's the Upanishads, as if it's a completely different category of texts. Okay. The preceding Vedic lessons directed followers to look outward in the form of rituals of sacrifice for well-being within the material world. The Upanishads guide one to look within, look inward. External ritual is replaced by the internal ritual of introspection, informed by hearing of Atma-jnana. What does Atma-jnana mean? Knowledge of the self, right? I'm not doing external ritual. That's not my focus. I'm learning about who I am, what I am. External ritual is replaced by the internal ritual of introspection, informed by hearing of Atma-jnana, knowledge of the self. Atma-jnana is established as life's most important concern, right? What am I trying to do here? I'm not trying to enjoy this world. I'm trying to find out who I am. What is my nature? Discernment between the permanent and the impermanent is central in the Upanishads, right? My body is impermanent. My home is impermanent. My relationships are impermanent. My possessions are impermanent. But I am permanent. I am eternal. I am beyond that. This is Jnāna. This is the way they're training their minds to think, and to how they're training their eyes to see. Names and forms are deemed illusory. They come and they go, and they disappear forever. The senses must be brought under control of the self by meditation on the true self beyond name and form. And one must also learn to behold the Atma in all living beings. Through constant reflection and meditation, one can realize and experience the ultimate truth about their eternal spiritual nature. They can break the shackles of illusion, transcend the sufferings of this world, and shine in their own spiritual glory. The Upanishads are especially relevant for the Jnana yogi, the sannyasi who has renounced society and left home for the forest in order to cultivate deeper spiritual experience, seeking moksha, release from the cycle of repeated birth and death. Is that clear? Somewhat clear in any case. Makes sense? When we were reading, those of you who were here when we were reading about Jnana Yoga, we spoke more in depth about it. I read you the poetry of Shankaracharya, how the Jnani is just wandering free, wearing nothing but a loincloth, sleeping under a different tree, meditating on the fact that Aham Brahmasmi, I am spirit, I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am spirit. I wish I had this. I had a translation. You see, one point that needs to be clear is these texts are cryptic. Okay, these texts, when you read them, they're difficult to understand. Like, for instance, one of the most famous Upanishadic verses is Om Purnam Adaha Purnamidam, Purnat Purnam Udachyate, Purnasya Purnam Adhaya, Purnam Eva Vasishyate. This is the invocation to the Isha Upanishad. Now, if you translate that just straight, basically means this is full, that is full. If you take away from the full, it remains full. and the full. It's just like, what are you talking about? You know, it's hard to put it together unless you have someone to give commentaries on it, to explain how to understand it, and then it can make sense. But these texts are cryptic. These texts are not simple. They're not so clear, and therefore there's a strong tradition of commentary to help us understand. And they're debating traditions of commentary. I want to share one point right now, just a side note as we progress. But there's the Vedas, the Karma Kanda, then comes the Jnana Kanda, the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra. Then comes the Mahabharata with the Bhagavad Gita in it. And then come the Puranas, and especially amongst the Puranas, the Srimad Bhagavatam becomes very, very, very important. Within all these texts, Vyas has one mission, Vyasadeva, and he's going to make this clear eventually. He wants to help you evolve to the level of divine love because he knows that that's your eternal nature. But he knows a lot of people aren't ready for that kind of message. And so he's saying, if you're materialistic and want the things of this world, here's the 4 Vedas. If you're sick of the materialistic life, but God as a person is a bit challenging to you, then we have the Upanishads and so on. And if you really want to know more about not only how you are spirit, but how you are spirit eternally connected with a divine being, well, then there's the Bhakti Kanda, these other texts that are going to explain in depth about divinity and about divine love. But it's not that divine love isn't explained through all these books. It's actually there. But it's something like it's a river. There's a river of divine love through these books. But it's sometimes like the river is underground. You can hardly see it. But if you just crack under the surface, the water comes up. You know? There's a river like that in India, right? What's it called? The Falguni River. Falgu means... It doesn't mean dry? Okay. Yeah, you look at this river and it looks like a dry river bed. I've heard that people have actually seen this. I know Radha Swami told me that he's seen this. And there's like, the water underneath is considered very holy. And there's priests there and they each have like a hole in the ground. And you can come and get water from them. But you don't see the river, but it's flowing underneath. And every now and then it pops up and there's a little spring. So like, divine love is there in the Vedas. The message is there, but it's not so easy to see. And divine love is there in the Upanishads. But it's kind of underground, and occasionally it starts to bubble up from underneath. But when you get to the Bhagavad Gita, it's kind of like opens up into like, you know, like a pond or something. And then when you get to Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole thing opens up wide. It's like water's everywhere. This is just all you see is the water, you know, the water of divine love. Does that make sense? Because I don't want to make it seem like these, like if you read the Upanishads, there's nothing there about bhakti. No, great philosophers have taken pains to show, look, you see, it's talking about bhakti. It's there. You just need to see it. But it's cryptic, so it's less difficult to see. All right, it's more difficult to see. Okay. So now we've spoken a little bit about the Upanishads, cryptic texts that are telling us, forget the Vedic rituals. They will just get you temporary boons that you will lose eventually, and that'll cause you suffering, and you'll stay stuck birth after birth after birth after birth, never learning the lesson. Never learning that I am spirit, that I'm beyond this, that I have so much higher potential. And sometimes I share this about this film. How many of you seen the film Groundhog Day? Okay. So you get an idea from that film. It's like there's a guy that's like just totally unrefined, low character guy. And his day keeps repeating and keeps repeating and keeps repeating. In the beginning, he's trying to use it like to exploit it. Like, oh, I know what's going to happen next. I'm going to use this so that I can enjoy more. But he finds he gets no enjoyment that way. Ultimately, he's suffering and he's stuck in a cycle. And only when he begins to evolve, he starts to let go. He starts to learn lessons through this cycle. And he starts to let go of his material aspirations. And he starts to realize, I need to become a better person. And it is ultimately when he learns about love, right? Because the whole time he's been pursuing this woman. When he actually begins to relate to her and to others with a mood of selfless love, that he is released from the cycle. And he wakes up one morning and it's not the same day again. He doesn't have to repeat, right? And so the yogis and the Vedas are saying that's what we're doing. We're going through life after life after life. We're meant to learn some lessons. If all we're trying to do is enjoy the things of this world, we're not learning the lesson. And the first lesson is you're not your body, you're not your mind, you're the spirit within, you're eternal. You're blissful by nature. Discover that. And then the Bhakti yogis are saying there's more to discover than that. And that you have a relationship of divine love that's beyond this and that's also eternal. All right. So the Upanishads are giving that message very clearly. Strong message of renunciation, a strong message of Atma Jnana. Understand that you are that's Aham Brahmasmi. You are spiritual. You are beyond all this. But it's 108 books, and it's a little bit like they're all over the place. It's hard to kind of see a clear progression in their message. So then Vyasa composes a work. It's about 550 sutras, compressed little statements of wisdom that summarize and kind of systematically explain the teachings of the Upanishads. And that text is called Vedanta Sutras, right? Or sometimes it's called the Brahma Sutras, a very important text. This text is within the broader field of Vedanta. How you interpret this text defines your lineage, how you see it. Again, this is even more cryptic than the Upanishads, because sutras by nature, you've all heard of the Yoga Sutras, right? There's also the Bhakti Sutras, Narada's Bhakti Sutras. And here we're talking about Vyasa's Vedanta Sutras, perhaps the most influential of all the collections of sutras. The idea with sutras is that you can memorize them. 550 may sound like a lot of sutras to memorize, but they're relatively short, compact. And like when you're young, you can memorize things real easy. And so they would train people to memorize this stuff, right? Like yeah, we have I can remember every note to the guitar solo, that Keith Richards played, back in the 60s that I heard when I was a little kid. Little kids, memorize rap lyrics and they can go on and on for 20 minutes, And so when you're 8 years old, you go to the home of your guru every morning as the sun's rising and you chant the Vedanta Sutra, you're going to memorize them in a relatively short amount of time. And that's kind of like having a brand new computer, which is your mind, and then having 550 files, folders, each one labeled. And the label is the sutra, Atato Brahma Jñāsa, which literally just means now is the time to inquire into Brahman, right? Now is the time. Now is the time to question Brahman. Well, what does that mean? Well, you have the folder that says that on it, and then the guru is going to, after you've memorized them all, the guru is going to start to fill it in with the files to explain its meaning. But because you have this whole skeleton of the folders, which are the sutras, it's kind of like you're ready just to be like a walking Vedanta Sutra yourself. You have it all inside yourself. So the Vedanta Sutras, they're there for memorization so that we can, and you have to realize back in the day, there weren't so many books around. You understand? It was hard to write a book. There was no paper, right? They had leaves and you'd have to scratch into the leaf all the verses. Not too many people were willing to do that. And it's hard to preserve it. And so on. So they had systems for memorization like this. And that's what these sutras, part of it was for memorization. But another part of it was categorizing the Upanishadic teachings and making them very clear. So let me read a bit about the Vedanta Sutra. In his composition called the Vedanta Sutras, or the Brahma Sutras, Vyasadeva presented the substance of the principal Upanishads in a very succinct form of 555 aphorisms or sutras. His purpose was twofold. First, to lay out the disorganized ideas of the Upanishads in a systematic and logical order, and second, to provide a way of memorization. I guess I just said all this. Being cryptic by nature, the sutras really can't be understood without a lucid commentary. from a learned teacher. So memorizing them is something like, I just said all this. The Vedanta Sutras are recognized as one of the three key texts of the Vedanta tradition, along with the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads themselves. Together, these three serve as primary sources of authority for the followers of Vedanta. They are widely accepted as the proper exposition of the truths taught in the Upanishads, and they command great respect. Historically, important teachers have composed their unique interpretations of the sutras in order to establish their own doctrines, giving rise to different and often conflicting lineages of Vedanta, which have been preserved over the centuries through a chain of teachers and students. Is that clear? Okay. So now we have a body of text, the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra, which lend themselves towards a jnanic interpretation, that the goal of life is to let go of your material attachments and find peace. Right? Clear? Okay, many people feel that that's the goal of it all, that that's the peak, that's the pinnacle, that's what you're aiming for, and so on. And there has been debate. As I was reading about conflicting lineages, this is what they debate over. Is the goal to achieve eternal peace in Brahman, or is the goal to achieve eternal love in Bhakti? Right? This is the debate going on. And we'll go deeper into that. Okay. Ready for the next category of books? Okay. I'm going to read you a little something. Vyas reaches out to the masses. Right, so far, I keep summarizing, then it's what I wrote, so I'll just read it. Having provided instructions for material stability and prosperity through the Vedas, and having shared the deeper spiritual teachings of the Upanishads, summarized in the, okay, this will all be on the test. It can be assumed that that Vyasa's work was complete. Yet his profound compassion drove him to continue. He realized that although these texts were flawless, they were largely inaccessible. Only an elite group of priests were trained to understand the Vedas with their complex rituals and precise intonation. And the Stoic tutorials of the Upanishads appealed mostly to the rare contemplative souls that had developed an intense longing to renounce material comforts and pleasures. There would be a need for other sorts of texts that could reach a broader audience beyond the priests and renunciates. Wanting that no one be denied access to this life-giving spiritual content, Vyasa set about composing a broader variety of texts. Setting aside the Vedanta Sutra, which was a unique category of literature, Vyasa's works are divided into two categories. Have you heard these terms before? Shruti and Smriti? Yes? Okay. Shruti, what has been heard, refers to the eternal knowledge revealed through meditation and recorded precisely, the exact sequence of each syllable perpetually fixed. The Vedas and Upanishads are categorized as Shruti. Smriti, what has been remembered, refers to works that maintain the message of the Vedas and Upanishads, but are composed more freely. Vyasadeva's Smriti works include the great epic masterpiece, the Mahabharata, which includes the Bhagavad Gita, and the Puranas, 18 collections of fascinating stories telling of the gods, rulers, and sages of ancient times. A large body of Smriti texts would follow in the wake of Vyasadeva, composed by other sages, and covering all kinds of philosophical, social, and artistic topics. But Vyasadeva's Mahabharata and Puranas are universally accepted as most important. Their significance has to do not only with their unparalleled influence, but also with their authority. Now, this is important. In contrast with the Smriti texts that would follow, the Mahabharata and the Puranas are considered to be of the same quality of the Vedas and the Upanishads, in that they are apaurushaya, not created by any person. This is real important. It's saying that a lot of people feel that the Smriti is more authoritative. The Shruti is more authoritative. The Vedas and the Upanishads, these cryptic texts, they're the oldest texts. And they were written for really serious people, for these priests that were really well trained, or for these renunciates that had let go of everything. And the Mahabharata, that's for like common folks. You know, stories, some nice stories for everybody to get in. There's some good messages in them. But when it comes to debating what is the nature of existence, that's less, you can quote from that, and it carries some weight, but it carries more weight if you're quoting from the Vedas and the Upanishads. You understand? But that's, other philosophers have carefully shown that that's not the case. And I'll read why. The Upanishads themselves recognize the authenticity of the Mahabharata and the Puranas by calling them Panchama Veda, or the fifth Veda. They are expressions of the same transcendental sound of the Vedas, received in meditation, but recorded free of the constraint of repeating the exact wording. The concern for precise repetition is slackened for the purpose of readability. It's not that these texts are less authoritative. It's not that they're any less on point. It's not that they're any less transcendental. They are called the fifth Veda inside the ancient texts themselves. The Upanishads are going to say, Mahabharata is the fifth Veda. Once you call it the Veda, that means it's apurusheya. It's not created by any human being. It's eternal knowledge. It's flawless. It's the breathing of God. All of these things are said about the Veda. And if the Upanishads are saying that this is fifth Veda, then it means it's entirely authoritative, entirely true. Make sense? Yes, in the back.
The Upanishads predate everything. So how will they speak about Mahabharata?
Because it just speaks to this truth that it is all eternal knowledge, floating in the, and beyond that, Vyasa was composing them himself, so he knew what was coming down the pipe too. Right? So you could look at it either way. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Not only would the format of the Smriti text be more accessible, but the language as well. From an ordinary point of view, the Sanskrit of the Vedas and the Upanishads reads as archaic. The Mahabharata and the Puranas are written in a more simple form of spoken Sanskrit. Also in terms of, I have that verse here. Also in terms of style, the Vedas and the Upanishads tend to be cryptic. They often read like philosophical riddles. Take the invocation to the Isha Upanishad, for example. A literal translation reads, this is the verse I was mentioning before. That is full, this is full. From that fullness comes this fullness. If you take away this fullness from that fullness, only fullness remains. I mean, okay, that's going to, that you're going to have a hard time. When you read the Bhagavad Gita, it's not like that. When you read the Bhagavad Gita, it's much more clear what's being said. So although the texts of Shruti were rich in insight, they could be difficult to understand. In the coming age of Kali, the age that we're all in, people would have weaker minds and qualified teachers would be few. Therefore, the Mahabharata and Puranas would assume special value in the modern age. Through entertaining stories of heroism, treachery, devotion, and love, the same Vedic wisdom would be available to everyone. Vyasadeva's way of blending spiritual wisdom with compelling storytelling is so masterful that over the course of thousands of years, the Mahabharata and Puranas have continued to hold a captivating power. It's a fact. It's a fact. These are very, very, very... Iliad and Odyssey, I mean, how many people are reading them? You go to Greece now and maybe you learn it in school. But in India, Mahabharata is alive. It's like you still learn it in the comic books when you're a little kid. And then as you grow up, you study it and it informs your entire life, and the stories themselves touch people so much. When they put out the television show of the Mahabharata in India back in like the late 80s or early 90s, it was called Doordarshan. The whole country shut down. Everybody was watching it. We're going to be able to see Mahabharata on television. It was like everybody's fascinated by these stories. So it's beautiful, captivating stories that common people can read and gain from. Just because they're more accessible doesn't mean they're less authoritative. It's the same truth, but written in such a way that's far more interesting to read and far more clear. And therefore, particularly in this age, the sages say that the Mahabharata with the Bhagavad Gita and the Puranas, especially with Srimad Bhagavatam, are the most important texts. That we cannot understand the Vedas and the Upanishads without these texts. And that's why they're there. That's why they're there. All right. And where are these texts going to go? Ultimately, they're going to take divine love and make it crystal clear that this is the goal. We're going to share with you very soon, maybe tomorrow, that after Vyas composes all of these texts, this is essential. This is the game. What I'm going to share with you right now, right here at the last minute, this is the game changer about how to make sense of all of this literature. Vyas writes it all, and he's feeling despondent. He's trying to put his finger on, why don't I feel good? I've written all this literature. It should be so helpful for mankind. I live this pure life. I breathe pure air and drink water from the pure river and eat pure food and have pure meditation. I have a pure intention to help others. I've written this incredible body of work that no human being could do. And still I don't feel good inside. What's missing? What's lacking? And then he realizes, and his guru comes and confirms, Narada himself, who's incredibly authoritative, you haven't emphasized divine love. You haven't made it clear. You've talked about everything, and you're trying to reach people on different levels, and that's a good thing. But in doing so, you've been unclear about that this all leads to divine love. And so you haven't given people, you've been holding back. I know that all of that stuff about divine love is a little bit confidential. You don't just want to throw it out there for people because it's so sacred. But you haven't given people any channel to it. You've been unclear. You have to be really clear. And then he comes back and he revises one text, the Bhagavad Purana, or the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this text, he makes things incredibly clear. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Srimad Bhagavatam. But first, tomorrow we'll come back and we'll do Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita. Thank you all so much. Been wonderful spending this time with you. Again, if anyone would like the previous recordings or future recordings, Gabrielle here can connect you to them, and you will easily be able to find them. They're being posted online daily, I suppose, at this point, right? Mm-hmm. They go up the same day. Thank you all so very much. Hari Om Tat Sat.